the Winklevosses aren't Zuckerberg rich,
Mm-hmm.
but no one needs to be Zuckerberg rich.
Yeah, it's true. Not even Zuckerberg.
No one really even like. I'll take Illich rich.
Yeah.
And then I would open my damn wallet. It's Baseball at the Corner. This is the Michigan in Trouble podcast with your hosts, Alex S. Freeman and Luke Jaconis. Hello and welcome to the Michigan and Trumbull podcast. I'm Alex Freeman, joined as always by Luke Jaconis. Luke, how you doing? I'm
doing okay. We are recording on Labor Day, Monday, about 20 minutes after the game ended. Tigers lose 6-3 to the Pirates. Not good. Very sloppy. A very bad game. Yeah, if you don't score with runners in scoring position, if you walk leadoff batters, Kyle Funkhauser, you reap what you sow. So it is what it is. Yeah, that's a great way to come in. Came in real hot there. Yeah. Real positive on that one. Yeah, Tigers lost to the Pirates, so it is what it is. But other than that, I'm doing very well.
And semi-related to that Tigers loss, there was some breaking news before the game, some positive tests within the organization. I think the real difference maker, Joe Jimenez, was not available. So that definitely, losing George Lombard and Chris Fetter for this game.
Yeah.
I think you could say that you could feel those guys missing. Not that I think that there were like AJ Hinch made any like weird or bad managerial decisions in the game. I think he managed a fine game. He's a very capable man without those guys.
Yeah.
But definitely, thinking about what might Fetter have said to Kyle, what might Fetter have said to our pitching staff as they needed to make adjustments throughout the game.
Yeah.
And that's always a missed presence and happened right before game time. So that can also mess with the heads of some guys. Not an excuse. It was an ugly game.
Yeah.
You never want to go to face a team like Pittsburgh and come away a loser, but it happens. And unfortunate that it always seems to happen right before we record a show.
Never can be like a great fun time. First of all, a lot to unpack there. Yes, Joe Jimenez and George Lombard, I believe, both tested positive for COVID.
Yes.
Both were vaccinated. The entire Tigers team, actually, they're all vaccinated, which is awesome. So, it's just one of those things. It's not completely foolproof and perfect. Sometimes these things happen. Let's hope now it doesn't spread throughout the team and we don't have our own little super spreader within the Tigers dugout. But so they're going to be out for a little bit. And then I believe it was Fetter just because he was in close contact. Obviously, they all could probably make an argument.
Joe and George. Yeah.
You can make an argument
close
they probably
contact
all
for extended period.
Yeah. So, we'll see how that goes. Hopefully no other positive tests come from it. Hopefully George Lombard and Joe Jimenez get well soon. Another thing, you brought up in regards to like things that Fetter may have said. I do believe in this whole thing, the Fetter difference. I think Chris Fetter, if they said at the end of this season, we're going to build a statue of AJ Hinch and Chris Fetter holding hands and like waving to the crowd, I'd say perfect. Let's do it. I think even though they're going to probably finish under 500, they have made this team a lot more watchable, a lot more competitive in just a year's span. So why not? Let's build them some statues. But another thing too, obviously, not having Fetter there to maybe be able to actually have those conversations with someone like Funkhauser in game to make those adjustments. Something else that was working against the Tigers today as well was time, because Cisneros pitched a lot, Soto's pitched a lot, Fulmer's pitched a lot. It was just kind of Kyle's day to step up, and he didn't. I'm not going to drag Kyle Funkhauser to the mud by any means, because I think he's been really solid this entire season. I will note that more so as of late, I think he's scuffling. Maybe it's just a thing of, playing an entire 162 games. This is his first time ever doing it in the major leagues. So maybe there's something to be said there. Guys are just starting to get gassed out. But I'm not going to completely, just dump on the guy. He's been good overall. This was just one of those outings where he was pretty abysmal. And as I said at the top of the show, I believe it was Ben Gamble 0-2 to start off the inning, and he gave him a free base on balls. You and I were talking before we got recording. I'm sorry, I have zero sympathy for pitchers who can't throw strikes in the major leagues. Even if you throw a strike and they hit it to the moon, they hit a home run out of this solar system, I'll be like, hey, you know what? That happens. Tip your cap. When you're giving guys freebies and then you're just putting runners on base and you're just asking for trouble, you reap what you sow. So, walks are part of the game. I get it, but it's just like walks are part of the game, but walks at that stage and in that close to the game at that point in time, there's no excuse for it. Especially when you have a guy 0-2. I'm sorry, I don't feel any sympathy for Funkhauser in the situation. Again, I think he's been great. I think he will continue to be great. I don't think this is the end of Kyle Funkhauser by any means, but you got to take some accountability for the moment at this point in time. And Funkhauser, crapped the bed today. That's all you can say, and hopefully he bounces back and next time he's back.
Yeah, I mean, you said it great that if you get tagged for a home run because you're throwing strikes, it's going to happen. We see that with we've seen it with Matthew Boyd, where it has like become a problem where it's like, okay, maybe you're too much over the center of the plate right now, and giving guys too easy a time. And we saw it today with Tarek. He got tagged for a 2-run shot, and that's going to happen. It just is a piece of baseball. It's how guys like Miguel Caprera have hit over 500 career home runs, is that pitchers are going to put it over the plate sometimes. And if the guy beats you, he beats you. Because we also see guys like Soto come in and just blow it past guys at 101. And you say, yeah, you could put that dead center. That guy's never catching up to that ball. And so it is what it is. It's an unfortunate feeling to see those guys kind of come in, and three runs is probably not enough in most situations. As a baseball
team, you
would
hope so against the Pirates, though. I mean, they're a pretty bad, and I think the Tigers are 1-3 against the Pirates this season. And I know they're only playing them in small doses because it's an interleague matchup, but still, it's like, come on, guys. And it's only one game. They could go out there tomorrow and Wednesday and absolutely smoke the Pirates, and I think they very well still may do that. But it's just frustrating, especially it just doesn't make it any easier because they played really well against Cincinnati this past weekend, I thought. And again, I know it's only one game, but it's just like, come on. And then I look at the schedule down the road, which I know we're going to get to a little bit later, of how intense it's going to get over like this next week and a half. And it's like, these are the games, these are the teams that you should beat the crap out of. And this is where I get frustrating. This is where I get frustrated looking at this Tigers season as a whole, because of course there's been improvements. Of course they're a better team than they've been the last couple of years. Of course, things are looking pretty good heading into next year. But I still get this sense of like frustration when they play really well against teams that they probably should be losing to, and then they don't play well against the teams that they should be beating, i.e. the Cleveland Indians, the LA Angels, and in today's case, the Pittsburgh Pirates. That is what is so frustrating to me. And I know baseball is an unforgiving game, and there's nothing we can do about it. I mean, look at the Yankees. I mean, I don't know if I'd say they're one of the best teams in baseball this season, but they're a very good team. Some stars on there.
Coming into this series with the Orioles, were one of the hottest teams in baseball.
Exactly, and they just got swept by the O's at home, I believe. So, I mean, it's just I understand baseball's unforgiving. I should stop complaining about it, but it's just frustrating. It's like sometimes I really do feel with this team it is 2 steps forward, a step back. So, I don't know.
I mean, I think that this is a good segue into a conversation I've been wanting to have, and I think this week was a really good example of it, especially in light of today's loss, of kind of the 2 different ways, the 2 different types of fan that I think exist, particularly in a sport like baseball, because it is such a long season, such a grind. There are those that I would put you in this camp, Luke, that are live and die by every single game of the year as the summer unfolds. And then there are fans that are much more like me, that are much more take it maybe a series at a time, a week at a time, look at kind of that longer term picture. In the case of this Tigers team in particular, mostly looking at this season as a prelude to next season. And so that, that kind of wider, who's looking at the trees and who's looking at the forest kind of sense of fandom. You said you've been having this conversation with our friend Tom as well about those 2 different types of fans. And I think that it's a particularly interesting. I don't ever like to take the side of management, but I feel like I am taking a view of the team that is much more akin to the front office and management, where I'm like, yeah, September, this is probably going to be a rough month. This is a month of development in a lot of ways. That's more important than necessarily the wins and losses. Is, do we see these guys making the improvements that they need to make? We saw Casey Mize get pulled after 3 perfect innings yesterday, and emotionally that like hurts, but developmentally for next season, for the season after, when we want Casey to be going, pitching deep into October,
absolutely,
definitely the right step. And so as much as you'd be like, could Casey do it? Maybe. I think he shows flashes of the stuff, and that yesterday might have been the day, because the Reds offense wasn't particularly effective yesterday. So
he looked real solid yesterday.
Could have been the day, but that wasn't the point. And so that's also like the thing that is interesting, is that, how do you be a passionate and emotional fan in a situation where the wins and losses aren't necessarily the point. They will not win the division this year. And so what does a win in September mean, and what does it look like?
Yeah. Well, first of all, we must be cooking today, because this is a point I wanted to bring up too. And I even didn't bring this up to you during our little pre-show talk of how, like, it's hard right now as a diehard fan, and we're both diehard fans. Let's just preface this all by saying we're both diehard fans. We love this team. I know without a shadow of doubt in my mind and heart that our main goal is to see the Tigers win a World Series and to watch this team compete at a professional, pro, and exceptionally great level, because that's what we want to see this team, because we're Tiger fans at the end of the day. So that just goes without saying, as we get into this conversation. In regards to what you brought up, though, it's a great question, because I was thinking about it yesterday, and I think I even tweeted it out. Casey Mize looked great through 3 innings. Now, I don't know if I've made my official statement on this on our show yet. I thought I tweeted it yesterday, but maybe I didn't. I'm all for the limiting of the innings with Mize, Manning, Skubal. I get it. It sucks, but I get it, because here's why I get it. Spencer Turnbull. Spencer Turnbull was a workhorse in 2019. He pitched in way more games than he needed to in that season. Way more. That team was abysmal. Without joking, the worst Tigers team I've ever had to watch in all the years I've been a fan. Truly, that's how bad they were. He had no business pitching as much as he did. And as much as we liked Gardy, that was probably on him. At a certain point in time, got to say, look, we're not going anywhere. We don't want to kill this guy's arm. And look where we are 2 years later. He's getting Tommy John, and we're probably not even going to see him next year. If we do, very late in the season, probably more so in 23. So I get the reason for limiting innings with pitchers, especially young pitchers, especially a guy like Casey Mize, who is your team's golden goose when it comes to pitching, as are Skubal and Manning. I mean, all 3 of those guys are kind of like, the 3-headed monster moving forward. So we want to preserve those young arms, and I get it. I do. What's frustrating, and this is kind of what you alluded to, as a fan, as a diehard fan who's still watching these meaningless games pretty much in September, let's call it, at this point in the game, they're meaningless. They're not going to the playoffs. They have a potential to maybe finish 500, but even that's looking more and more slim every day. So these games are meaningless in September. We're pretty much watching them because we love them as fans and we love the team. So as a diehard fan who's dedicating his time, and you can even make an argument his money, because I paid for the MLB thing, and we're doing all these things. It's frustrating when you go from watching Casey Mize pitch 3 scoreless innings to watching Jose Urena go up there and just serve meatball after meatball. Somehow he still got the win yesterday, for the record. He got the win, so kudos to him. But boy, did he give up some hard hits and some hard outs at the same time. So I get it. It's such a fine line to walk of, like, yes, we want to preserve the future, but there is still things happening here. So it's just like, it's a really hard thing to have your foot in the door. But make no mistake about it, the Tigers are doing the right thing. They are doing the right thing by preserving these young arms. Just as a fan, it's just like frustrating, because I know I'm going to be watching the games. And even like today, it's like, even had Skubal gone on there and pitched 3 great innings, I knew he was getting pulled right after that. So now I'm also thinking I have to just change my mindset for these next few weeks of like, look, this might get pretty nasty. And to be fair, as I said last week on Twitter, and I stand by it, I think the rest of this season for the Tigers is going to get pretty nasty to maybe even pretty ugly. I don't know if it'll be quite as bad as April because they are going to have a couple more games against the Pirates. They get the Royals and the Twins. So hopefully they can get into the double-digit win side. And I think they'll at least take a couple, you would hope, from teams like the Rays and the Sox now between the end of the season. But I think this, the last month, 3 to 4 weeks of the season is going to get pretty ugly. Not that I think this team is terrible, just because I think given what we just said with certain players now being limited, and then also the main factor being this juggernaut of a schedule that comes to town starting this week with the Rays, it's just like the odds aren't in our favor. So yeah,
on limiting players. I don't know that there's been a ton of discussion about it, but we're also seeing Miguel Caprera get a little bit more limited as well. He had two straight days off. Did come in and pinch hit on Monday's game, but had the day off for all intents and purposes. He swung the bat, I think, twice, and got the job done. Did what he needed to do.
Had sack fly. He came in and did his job.
Greatest Tiger hitter. But I think we're going to continue to see that. And that's another one that you get like, but if you played him every day, there's a chance he could have gotten to 3,000 hits.
3,000 hits.
It's like, yeah, but then there's also a chance it would have been way more worn out at the end of the year. And for what? We want Miggy healthy long into next season. And I do really feel like even with, some sense of, and not to say that they're packing it in September, but some sense of, we're now entering late fall spring training. We're going to get some guys some work in spots that they might not otherwise. We're going to focus less on the wins. We're going to focus more on the developmental process. And so because of that, like, why would we risk Miguel Cabrera's health when we're going to have Carlos Correa at shortstop next year? We're going to have Justin Verlander back in the rotation. And we're going to go out and we're going to compete for the American League Central. And I like all of those things feel entirely within the grasp. Now, obviously the White Sox, a very good team, will be a difficult team to unthrone. But with the right offseason acquisitions, the pieces seem like they're there. And so that's also why I don't necessarily think, I agree with you that I don't think it will be as bad as April was, because there's also a lot of guys on this roster that are playing for jobs, whether with the Tigers or someone else. That
some guys playing for jobs, they should even be in the major leagues. Willie Castro.
Yeah, well, exactly, because I mean, we started to hear it, I think, more in the broadcast today than elsewhere. But Dan Petrie said it. AJ said it earlier in a press conference of like, we don't know what the roster is next year, and so like, what do you like? There are pieces that we know we'll have, guys like Akil Baddoo, Jonathan Scope, Miguel Cabrera, Robbie. Where are we going to, let's start to get Akil Baddoo some experience at different spots in the batting order, because right now probably makes sense as a leadoff man. What the team looks like next year, maybe he's hitting 7th. So like finding those things and seeing those types of different changes, it's hard as a fan to be sitting in this weird middle spot. Exactly. Of like, we should compete for an American League Central next year. They could lose every game remaining in the season this year. Both things are true. And we just got to live through it. It is, I guess, to a certain extent, a trust the process situation. But I do trust AJ Hinch's process. Yeah, absolutely. I think AJ Hinch, I mean, I've said it again, like time and time again on this show. I think the entire coaching staff has been spectacular this season. There's no doubt about that. And you said it perfectly. This is just one of those things where we're like in this weird in between. And also, I'm just going to speak for myself here. This is the first time in probably 4 or 5 years that I've been watching Tigers games and I've actually been into them still. And again, this team is not competing for anything.
They are not competing to get in the playoffs. They are simply, in my eyes right now, competing for pride and to maybe finish 500. And those two things alone are getting me to keep watching the games, along with the fact that I do think the team is still fairly entertaining to watch. So given the fact that this is kind of the first time in quite a few years that I guess I'm watching Tigers baseball in September that I'm actually excited about, great. I mean, a year or two ago, like 2019, I would still watch the games in September, but it'd almost be like background noise. I'd be doing something and just have it on in the background, putzing around.
I'd be setting up my fantasy football roster.
Exactly. I may be taking like a 2-hour nap, like from like innings 2 to 8, and be like, all right, well, the ninth inning rolled around. Let's see we're down 14-1. Not good. Not good at all. So that's another thing too. And we've talked about this, and this kind of maybe goes, it's so interesting actually that we decided to have this conversation today, because I feel like recently in sports, fandom is like being brought more and more into question. Obviously, we talked about it on last week's show, everything that was going on with the Mets and the fans booing them, the Mets booing the fans or whatever. So like, it's just so interesting to me, like the topic of fandom. I think it's a really fascinating topic when you look at it, because you said it perfectly. I think you described it A+ material in the beginning. I live and die game by game with the Tigers. And I know it sounds insane. I know people may be listening or watching this and like, this guy's crazy. But when the Tigers win, I'm in a better mood. When they have a tough loss like today, I'm legitimately kind of like, damn it. Like, I'm pissed. I'm grumpy. I'm grumpy for a little bit. And I wish I wasn't that way. I wish sometimes I could just turn off the game. Like, they're not going to win today. We'll try again tomorrow. Some days I can do that. The bulk of the days I cannot. And I wish I wasn't that way, but it's just who I am. And I can't be anyone more than my authentic and true self. You live and die by the team, so to speak. And it's only going to get worse because the Bears start playing this week. And that's going to be brutal. That's going to be brutal. So it is what it is. But I mean, it's an interesting conversation.
Yeah, Luke, I have a question for you as someone who does live and die by every game. And I am not that person, as I said, but like I do notice. So like tomorrow's game, there's more pressure on tomorrow's game for my general mood. That, if they win tomorrow, great. I'm in a great mood. Let's on to the rubber match. Away we go. But if they lose again tomorrow, that will impact me more than today's loss did. And if they lose again, that will impact me more.
Then we sell the team. Now, one thing, fans, we can be passionate, we can be angry, we can tweet. Obviously, don't be those idiotic fans that like tweet out insane shit. That's just too much. Also, don't be the fan that is like burning your gear. I've never understood when fans do that.
Yeah.
Like when LeBron left Cleveland, everybody burnt his jersey, and then guess what? He came back to Cleveland like 5 years later, or whatever it was. And
you know who loves when you burn your gear? The owners.
Yeah. You know why? Because eventually they know you're going to want new gear, and where are you going to get it? Yeah.
Dan Gilbert loved it when you burned your LeBron gear.
I've never understood fans who do that. But to a credit too, and this kind of goes back to what we said last week with the Javi Baez Mets discussion. Like, if you're a fan going to these games, even if you are the fan like me who lives and dies with the team, or the fan like you, Alex, who can kind of take a breath and be like, let's reassess where we're really at the end of the week. Like, regardless of which avenue you're on, you have a right as a fan, and I wholeheartedly believe this, to express your happiness with the team, but even then more so when you're frustrated or just, as I would put it, pissed with the team. As fans, we are allowed to do that. We are investing our time. In certain cases, you're investing money, whether you're ordering it on some MLB app, going to the stadium, spending time there, buying merchandise, buying concessions. You're spending your hard-earned dollars. So in return, you want a good product. And it gets a little bit more difficult because, there's 162 games a year. So you may have that game where you go to and the Tigers win 9-0, or you may go to the game when they lose 11-1. Like, that's just kind of the nature of the beast with sports. But fans, as a right, have the ability, and they should have the ability and the right to continue to just keep expressing their beliefs, whether they're positive or negative. Again, there's obviously those ground rules. Don't be those idiot fans who cross the lines of like sending out like like death threats or anything. Like those people they're not fans. They're just psychopath idiots who just want to
folks,
scream.
When we say live and die by the team, we are not being literal.
Yeah. No, the line, of course, folks. Obviously, but yeah, it's one of those things. And it's funny too, when we talk about our show specifically and pulling back the curtain a bit, when I was speaking with our resident A's fan, Tom, the other night after our trivia game, by the way, to all our listeners, video people, every week we play trivia together, a big group of us. It's wonderful. It's a great way to keep in touch with your friends when you're in the midst of a pandemic. I highly recommend it. But he and I were discussing just like the different types of fandom. And I brought up the point where I think works well with us is that we're so different at times. I mean, again, we're going for the same goal here. We're on the same page. Just sometimes we're on different chapters, if that makes sense. Or maybe same book, different chapters. Maybe that's what I'm looking for. Yeah. I think that's just fascinating too. I mean, look, we're the Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless of Detroit Tigers baseball. Who do you want to be, Skip or Stephen A?
Depends on the day, really.
I don't want to be either. I'll take the hosting chair, the moderator.
Now, what I will say, also, Luke, as much crap as I give you for how you react sometimes, I completely agree with you that you're fully within your right to react. Of course. But it's it's just fun to
it's part of the show. Yeah, I mean, it's part of the bit. I get it. Hey, look, I get it. I'll be the first to admit I'm an emotional fan. I wish I wasn't sometimes. I just think it goes beyond just the sport. I mean, my family has always been so engraved in sports. My grandfather, not that I was a big hockey fan, but he was a hockey coach for many years. So just like that coaching mentality was always around in my life. I was coached by my father in baseball. My dad's a diehard baseball fan. My brother's a huge football fan. Like sports are such a huge thing in my family. And we're all pretty emotional. So, I mean, in terms of we watch our teams, we love them. We love them when we love them and we hate them. It's like, this sucks. And that's the one thing too. And I always try to make a point on my behalf, whether I'm, sometimes ranting on Twitter or giving praise on Twitter, I'll be the first to admit when I was wrong. A lot of times I'm wrong. So, if the end of September rolls around here in a couple of weeks and the Tigers finish fairly decent record around 500, maybe a game or two over, a game or two under, I'll be like, you know what? They played much better than I thought they would. And for me, it's never a thing of rooting that you want to see the team do poorly just so like your predictions come true. Because to me, that's also psychotic, if you really get into that whole like mentality of it. It's just, you think what you think, and sometimes you're right. A lot of times I'm wrong. It changes nothing though with the fact that I love this team. I want to see this team do well. But at the same time, I do hold the team to a high standard because I think that's what all fans should do. I'm not okay with fans who are okay with their mediocre team. That's why this whole rebuild has been brutal on me, because for years it was just like, well, we're going to kind of suck. Maybe we'll be good. Maybe we won't. And you guys are going to keep watching and paying to come see the game. So it is what it is. And to me, I was like, no. I'll tell you what really screwed me over, not to hijack this whole thing. I watched that documentary on Netflix a few months ago, The Last Dance, the Michael Jordan doc. And I think every fan should approach their team the way Michael Jordan approached basketball, where you are cutthroat and all you want to do is see your team win.
Yeah,
that's my hot take.
Couldn't have said it any better myself, Luke. Let's take our ad break.
Great, let's do it.
And then we'll come back. We'll talk about the rest of the September schedule, kind of what we're looking at this week. Could be a rough week, and some other stuff. We texted a bit this week, and I want to bring some of that into the show as well. So we'll be right back. See you in a moment. We are back on the Michigan and Turnbull podcast. And Luke, you texted me, this might have been yesterday, maybe a couple days ago, and you said, is Jeimer Candelario the best player on this team?
Yes, he is. Yeah, I think he is. that was a good little conversation we had. My reasoning for that is I just think he's been the most consistent.
Mm-hmm.
He may not lead the team in home runs or RBIs or even average at the end of the season, but I just think when I think who I think has been the most consistent from April till now, I think it's Jeimer. I do think Robbie Grossman has probably been the most clutch. When the game's on the line, it seems like Robbie is always the guy getting the tying home run or a walk-off bunt or whatever, the walk-off bomb he had against the Yankees. I think Eric Haas and Akil Baddoo are probably the two biggest surprises of this season. And I'll also throw in Kyle Funkhouser too. I know he had a really bad game today against the Pirates, but I think he definitely deserves some consideration for biggest surprises of the year.
Real hot and cold day on the show. Kyle Funkhouser.
yeah, it was. Yeah, we were hot on him now, but you got to give him his dues. I think overall he's been pretty good. Miggy's been Miggy, so I mean, there's nothing too different there. I mean, obviously it's just great to see him playing a full season and he's healthy and all that. So knock on wood that continues. And Scope's been good. I feel like Scope's been a little bit, actually, if I'm speaking out loud, I think ever since Scope's got his extension, he's been a little streaky. So that's never a great sign, but obviously I think, again, I'm all for the Jonathan Scope extension. So why not? It's just been funny to note that I think since he's gotten that, he hasn't been all that great. But I have no doubt in my mind he'll come back around and he'll be good there. And it's too early to give the young guys, like a Mize or a Skubal or a Manning, props that they're the best on the team because they're just so young. So I think, in my opinion, Candelario is the best player on the Tigers this season. He would win at this point in time. I would probably give him MVP of the season.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. And I think one of the things that I liked about that conversation that we had earlier, and just now you opened it up again, of the volume of guys that are good storylines this year. And it feels like it's been a long time since we've had multiple guys with great storylines, multiple guys near the top of various categories in the league. And looking at this statistically, like Eric Haas is fourth among rookies in home runs. And obviously that a bigger surprise than Akil Baddoo, probably the Eric Haas story. And Baddoo himself, kind of watching his tracking through the year where he got super hot right out of the gate, which catapulted him to being one of the faces of the team. And then, struggling, as a lot of guys do when they're adjusting to the major leagues, and starting to figure it out again, and getting hot, finding ways to make it work, still hitting for extra bases in a really great way. And all of that to be said, when we've had this conversation throughout the year of who's the best guy on the team right now, as I said to you, Jeimer may not win the conversation at any singular given time, but he's the one who's always been in the conversation. And the other guy I brought up to you is Robbie Grossman, who's having the best season of his career in a Tigers uniform. And I sometimes that can just happen from a change in environment. Obviously a new coaching staff that he's working with that has maybe helped him make some of the small adjustments he's needed to make to kind of get to this spot, or just being on a slightly less talented team than the A's teams he's played on maybe has provided more opportunity for him to shine in a way. But you said it, and I agree with it in the text chain of give credit to Al for that signing, because that's a great signing.
Yep, that was really good. I can't believe you just brought up the fact that I want to give Al Avila credit. What a trader.
Sorry, Luke, you got to tell me it's off the record if you don't want me to bring it up on the show.
No. I got to give credit where credit's due. That was a good signing by Al. Actually, both the people we just mentioned, Jeimer and Robbie, those are two pat on the backs to Al. The Grossman signing, and then the Jeimer Candelario trade back in 2017, I believe it was. They traded it was Justin Wilson and Alex Avila, and in return the Tigers got Jeimer and I believe Isaac Paredes. So Got to give Al two pats on the back.
That's actually a really nice trade.
Yeah. I got to give him some love on that one. Robbie's been great, and I think I just saw something that Robbie said he wants to finish his career as a Tiger. So that's awesome. I think, where this team is heading, you're going to want a player on your team like Robbie Grossman. You're going to want more of these veteran type guys to kind of be there to not only perform, but to kind of also fill that mentor role for a lot of these younger guys that are going to be around the team. We talked about it last week. Imagine if Justin Verlander were to come back to the Tigers. And if you're Casey Mize or Matt Manning or Skubal or Faedo, Joey Wentz, whoever, all these guys are going to be here at some point, we're assuming. That's a great guy to be mentored by. That is a really good guy to be mentored by. If you're Spencer Torkelson or Riley Green, Miguel Cabrera is a great hitter to kind of have as your mentor. So I think that's that would be great for Robbie to kind of finish here. And if he wants to kind of do that dual role of player/mentor on the side, which I'm sure he's been doing this year already with guys like Derek Hill and Akil Baddoo, Victor Reyes. I'm all for it. You know what? I'm thinking out loud now. And a name we didn't mention. And I don't think that this guy is – this guy's almost become almost like an eye roll to now. Then he kind of came like a meme. And now I think he's actually like a fairly consistent hitter for where this team is at, hitting Harold Castro.
Yeah.
Like he has quietly gone from kind of being like, oh, remember when Harold came in and pitched that game and he struck out retired Nelson Cruz? Oh, remember when Harold had that walk-off against the Cubs? And now it's like, no, Harold Castro like legitimately is like fairly consistent in the lineup. He's like batting above 280, had a couple bombs the other day. Obviously that's not his MO hitting for power, but I'm telling you, next to Robbie Grossman, when the game's on the line, I might want Harold Castro to take an at-bat because I know there's about a 90% chance he's going to hit a little bloop flare over the third baseman's head, and the Tigers might win.
Well, you talk about the platoon of utility men that is on the Tigers roster right now of Harold Castro, Willie Castro, Nico Goodrum. Nico is fine. He's settled. He's settled into a spot where I'm like, he's fine. I'm not.
Yeah.
Willie, I never like to see in the lineup. But
boy, we've changed our tune on him.
Yeah, and then Harold Castro, I'm like, yeah, put him in. Let's see what he does. Yep. Especially, I mean, in pinch hit situations, he's been great. In, probably exactly what you said. Behind Robbie Grossman, probably the next guy you want in a big moment. Which is crazy.
Harold
Castro or Eric Haas. Eric Haas has also come through huge in a couple of spots. It's just funny because
you're exactly right. It's just funny though because like. And I'm not even being facetious when I say that. I legitimately would probably be like, well, if Robbie can't take the AB, let's give it to Harold. There's probably a pretty good chance he's going to get a base hit out of this at least. And, and that's no disrespect to guys like Scope and Candy and Miggy, but it's just like, I don't know, the dude, he's definitely not like the joke anymore, the butt of the joke. I think he's been a pretty consistent player. I don't know where he really fits in with this team, big picture. I don't think he's the starting second baseman on opening day next year, but I mean, to have a utility guy like him that can hit, great. If we could merge someone, not that I think he's the greatest defensive shortstop ever, but I think Zach Short was fine defensively. If we could manage like Zach Short defensively with Harold Castro's bat, that'd be a pretty good little utility infielder to have right there. So yeah, bring it back to Willie Castro. Yeah, we've really changed our tune with him. And to be honest, it's on no doing other than his own. I mean, he had a really nice, season last year in 2020 for the 60-game sprint, and then he had a pretty solid spring training, and then he's just crapped the bed. He is the one guy that I look around at this team, and I think of the Wilson Ramoses, the Nomar Mazzaras, a Zach Short, a Grayson Griner, who have all kind of come and gone. And I look at him and I go, how are you still here? like, what are you still doing here? Did they revoke your pass? Are you just like breaking into the clubhouse every night, just like ready to go in uniform? Like, how is Willie still on this team? But I guess I don't foresee. I don't know if I don't think he will be with the team next year. I don't know. I think it's been a horrible season for him.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to kind of see what happens with those utility guys, what the offseason moves are, what the because you have guys like Isaac Paredes, all these guys kind of waiting in the wings. We also have a glut of catchers still. So does that mean Eric Haas moves into the outfield more frequently? Lots of roster questions to be answered in the off season as we kind of get into that. Let's take a look at the schedule this week. Obviously 2 more against the Pirates, off on Thursday, and then home again against the Rays this coming weekend, the 10th, 11th, and 12th. Once again, on the 10th, those Detroit Roots hoodies. If you happen to be going to the game and don't want your Detroit Roots hoodies, slide into the DMs. Luke and I will take them.
We'll take them.
Any size. It doesn't matter. We'll take it. We'll make it work.
It's true. Yep. That's I'm looking at this schedule and oh boy, this is gonna be tough. 3 against Milwaukee. It should be 3 against Tampa Bay at home, 2 against Milwaukee at home. You go to Tampa for 4 games. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to make those games. I was hoping I would be able to, but I'm gonna be moving that weekend, so I don't know if I'll be able to make those on Saturday and Sunday. And then you get the White Sox. It gets a little bit easier at the end of September because you get Kansas City and Minnesota, and then you end your season in Chicago in that first week of October. So look, and I'll say this again, I said it before we took the ad break. I'm not saying that I think that this is going to be a brutal month of September because I want to see the Tigers fail. That's as far from the truth as possible. I want to see the Tigers do well. I just think right now, given with where this team is at, they're limiting their starting pitchers with the young bucks. Even a guy like Miggy lately has been kind of getting some more days off here and there. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe that kind of starts to spread throughout the team, in some capacity. That mixed with the schedule, it just spells bad news. Now, here's the one thing that the Tigers do maybe have going for them against some of these teams. None of these teams have clinched yet, but Tampa's going to the playoffs. Milwaukee's going to the playoffs. The White Sox are going to the playoffs. Maybe some of those teams start resting some of their guys. I mean, to be fair, we are still pretty early into the month of September. Maybe you see that more toward the tail end of this juggernaut stretch. Maybe like when they're in Tampa, by then maybe Tampa has clinched. Maybe the White Sox have clinched by then. That's kind of
I was actually
I was
just looking at it and about to bring up the kind of flip side of that, of particularly these three against Tampa in Detroit coming up. Tampa, trying to hold off a hard charging Yankees team that is trying to catch them. 8 games. That's a lot to make up in 25-ish games left in the year. And so Tampa can close that division soon. And I was just trying to see if MLB.com had any magic numbers up yet, and they don't seem to. But you got to think Tampa's close to that magic number, especially if the Yankees are going to get swept by the Orioles.
And they lost today too to the Blue Jays.
And also looking,
or maybe it was the Rangers.
It's the Blue Jays are in town.
I'm right. I'm smart.
Yeah. And looking at, side note, Major League Baseball has to be salivating at this. If the playoffs were today, American League wildcard matchup of the New York Yankees and the Boston Red Sox.
Ooh, that's good TV.
I mean, just salivating over that potential.
One game, win and you're in, lose, you're done. That is a fun one game right there. I'm not a Yankees fan. I'm not even really a Red Sox fan. But this is a fan of baseball and the history of rivalries and teams. That would be pretty awesome. That would be pretty awesome.
I will be at the Yankees game Tuesday night.
Nice.
And so those of you that do bet sports, the Yankees have never lost when I'm at Yankee Stadium. So just putting that out there seems like a way to make a little money.
So when the Tigers come to town next year, you are not to go to the games.
Yeah, I'm really going to be hard pressed to stick to that rule. So I'm
You're
hoping,
banned.
I'm actually a little bit hoping that my streak ends tomorrow.
Okay, good.
So that I don't have to worry about it next year.
Yeah, I get you. That's fair. Yeah, no, this is look, this is going to be an interesting end of the season. It's winding down here. And as we kind of wrap this up here, I think, just being a little bit more sentimental, as we start to think of this season that was, because we've only got a couple more weeks. It's been fun watching them. I mean, granted, there's a lot of times I'm frustrated beyond belief with this team. I've expressed those on this show before. If you don't believe me, go check Twitter. You can see my true thoughts there at times. But, again, acknowledging what is the truth, this team is better. This team is going to be in a good spot moving forward. A lot in regards to 22 is going to depend on how they handle this offseason. This is the most anticipated Tigers offseason in probably 5 or 6 years. I mean, this is truly going to be very exciting to watch because they're big players. You look at a lot of these articles of like these early predictions of where a guy's going to go, Tigers are mentioned a lot, definitely with the shortstop position because that's the number one issue that needs to be addressed. But also with bringing in some more starting pitching to back up these young bucks. Could we also maybe potentially see a trade that the Tigers are involved in this offseason? I definitely think that's in the realm of possibilities. This is going to be a very exciting offseason for the Detroit Tigers. And hopefully these last 3 weeks give us a positive start going into that offseason. Mm-hmm. The worst thing that could happen in my eyes is that they absolutely crap the bed these next 3 weeks. And we go into the offseason 15 to 20 games under 500 and maybe in 4th place. And it's just kind of like, all that good work, like throughout most of the season, they were playing better. And to end on that note leaves a bad taste in your mouth. So let's hope that doesn't happen. But this schedule is tough.
Yeah, because you're looking at if you had told me in April that the Tigers could finish 3rd in this division, I would have thought you were out of your mind. And right now they're sitting in 3rd, but Kansas City's only 2 games back from.
They're playing better.
That third
Kansas City's
position.
playing better. So, and they've played us.
And Minnesota's only 4.5 games back from us. So there is some possibility that they could backslide in those standings, which again would also potentially hurt them in the free agent market. As guys looking at looked like you were making some steps, but it was still, a whimpering 4th place finish in the division because the Twins were awful this year. So
I think, and I stand by what we've said a few times, this is kind of like the audition season for the Tigers because you don't want to go out there and completely flop this season because then it's only going to hard to attract big name free agents. Be like, hey, come to Detroit. We almost just lost 100 games and barely finished in 4th, but come to Detroit. And while I don't think that really is the MO, I think league wide now it's kind of known that like the Tigers are starting to become that team that they're going in the right direction. They've got a great manager at the helm. They've got some really intriguing pieces on both offense and defense. Maybe not so much defense, offense and pitching, I should say. And then also, there's the young bucks that haven't even made their debut this season that are just kind of lurking in AAA with Torque and Riley Green. So it'll be an interesting offseason, no doubt about it. But I do agree with what you're saying and kind of what we both have said. Like, you don't want to just lay an egg here these last 3 weeks and let what has been a pretty at times encouraging season just kind of slip away from your fingertips. And I guess maybe that's why I'm so subconsciously kind of worried about this next week and a half of baseball, not only because of where they're at as the Tigers right now, resting players and the schedule, but I don't want that to kind of be the narrative heading into the offseason.
Yeah, I agree completely. Just to kind of end some things on a positive note, open the expanded standings from Major League Baseball, and the Tigers are 19-18 in 1-run games, which it feels encouraging that they're winning close games. Maybe 1 game above 500 is not the best desired outcome there, but they're winning close games. The other thing, they may want to consider installing turf at Comerica because they're 4-2 on turf. So
that's awesome. That's why I love baseball. The wackiest and weirdest stats you can imagine, but baseball has. It's like, what is Miguel Caprera hitting on Wednesdays when his shoe's untied and his jersey's only half tucked in? And it's like, oh, he's hitting 444. It's like, okay, great. Thank you for letting me know that. I didn't know, but now I do.
When you go to a Mets game at Citi Field, every stadium likes to put up like a fact or a trivia thing as the guy's coming up to bat. It feels like every stat that they use at the Mets is contingent upon a random date. Like since last Wednesday, he's been the 3rd player to enter the clubhouse every game. Nobody cares.
No one cares.
This is why people are booing.
Yeah, they're not booing the players. They're booing the scoreboard.
Booing
That's
the
what
stat.
We cracked the case. They're not angry with the team. They're angry with the fact that they're learning useless trivia and they paid a pretty penny to go watch this baseball game. I get it. It's fair.
Since last Thursday, Javi Baez has given the finger to the camera 7 times.
Yeah, that's hey, good. I guess since last Thursday, Javi Baez has struck out 491 times. He has only seen 1 ball. So good for you, Javi. Yeah, no, it's it'll be interesting. The game of baseball is interesting, and what can you do? But hey, go Tigers! We love them, and we'll be here. We're not going anywhere.
Absolutely. Make sure you follow us on social media, especially Twitter at @Mish_Turnbull. Luke is particularly entertaining on the Twitter feed. And so make sure you check it out. Follow us there. Tell your friends who are Tigers fans that they can come and commiserate with us or celebrate with us as the season unfolds nearly every week. And so we will see you next time. Luke, have a good one.
See you, buddy. Have a good one.